view it? How do the decision makers view it? How do the regime leaders across government view it? And I'm going to tell you right now, they are all going to view it as a ransom payment. They're going to view it as a validation of their efforts. And they're going to say, hey, this is a winning strategy. We might not have money frozen in the future, but you never know when you might need a hostage handy for leverage. And so this is a disgrace in my view. I actually do think that there is an avenue for Congress to block this. This is not a done deal. Um, the money has not gone into the Omani bank accounts. I think realistically, there's something that's going to happen if Biden made this decision a couple months ago. It had been on the table for some time, and a couple months ago, he made the decision to go forward with this deal, and so that's what we're seeing now. Um, you know, One thing that's interesting, just sort of analytically, is um, there's always been an ability for the United States, even when I was involved in these negotiations, to separate the hostage file from your other files, from the economics, from the nuclear, and that's good because at the end of the day, the United States has an obligation to its citizens to try to take care of them. What we're actually seeing here is and so we were able to get an American out just 3 months or 4 months after we killed Qasem Soleimani. You would think that would be a toxic time for diplomacy, but it was actually, we were still able to get someone out. What we've seen in the last 2.5 years is the reversal of that. They are making the hostage file entangled with the economic files and with the nuclear files in an incredibly, incredibly dangerous way, not just for this administration, but for any future administration, where what they are saying is, from all accounts, this is tied up in the nuclear deal. This is step one in a new nuclear deal. Iran realizes that it has incredible leverage with these hostages, and it can gain them for all sorts of leverage. And so we know, as a community that's focused on trying to, bring down the Islamic Republic or create accountability for the Islamic Republic, whatever your particular goals are. It's important to note this is probably just the start of a long process of more deals, more concessions with the regime. And I posted a video a couple hours ago of Ali Baez at a roundtable with Mali, where he basically said, look, we might not like this deal, but we have to come out strongly and supportive of it because it is a gateway for other deals, for other issues. And so we have to come out as strongly as we possibly can in favor of this deal. And that tells you everything that you need to know. They don't even think that this deal is necessarily a good one, but they're going to go all out on the PR side of it to make that case. And this is, again, this is the beginning of the fight, not the end of the fight.
So, so yeah, sorry to cut in there because I asked Jason this question earlier, and I really, really liked his answer. But I'm curious on what you have to say in terms of like deterrence and kind of where do we? I mean, you want to turn back the clock on this? I don't know. Do you want to prescribe the same methods used under the Trump administration? Is that your prescription for how to deal with this, or what is your opinion on kind of how we move forward with dealing with this? If it was Gabriel in control of all of this, how would you proceed with dealing with this regime? Because it doesn't seem like this route is very sustainable to us, at least the ones who don't want to see this regime get any more money.
So I think there's two things. I think Jason is spot on. We have to make it harder for Iran to take hostages, both, on the grand strategy side, but also really operationally. In 2019, after North Korea took Otto Warmbier, who was actually a fellow student of mine at UVA, and they kidnapped him and tortured and killed him. And he lived in my dorm actually in college. The United States put a travel ban on U.S. passports going to North Korea. So it's separate from, you think of travel ban, you think of people from Iran can't come here. This is actually the opposite. Is if you have a U.S. passport, you cannot go to Iran. And if you do, your passport becomes invalidated. And it's subject to a waiver from the Secretary of State. So if your mom's about to die or you're an aid worker and you want to risk your life, you can get a waiver from the Secretary of State. But we can't have more and more Americans taken hostage. We cannot, one, afford it to American citizens. We can't allow people to go literally into the viper's nest where they might get kidnapped and then held for ransom. And two, we can't pay Iran things. We can't keep allowing them. I'm fine generally with prisoner exchanges. I don't love them, but I understand that they're necessary. But we can't keep giving the Islamic Republic fodder and then releasing tons of people from U.S. prison who have been in prison, who have been sentenced with full legal process, I will know. And these are sanctions violators and worse who are going to go get set free. So we can't give them that leverage. So I think one, there should be a travel ban like the North Korea travel ban imposed. And in terms of incentives, my view and I've stated this quite a few times is put a severe, strict travel ban on the UN diplomats in New York. Give them a 1 block radius. They have to be there for U.S. legal purposes. 1 block travel radius in Manhattan. If they get sick, that's their problem. They can go on a plane and get out to Europe or Iran. Not our problem. And if they want to be able to go buy things, they can stop trying to assassinate Americans and they can let all our Americans in prison go. And the moment they take an American hostage, those travel restrictions snap back on, and all their diplomats trying to live the life of luxury in Manhattan get that taken away. And then, really broadly, admittedly, the Trump administration, we didn't do this, and I wish we had. We just didn't have time. You got to work again, as Jason said, with the Europeans, Australians, New Zealanders, others, and create collective punishment mechanisms so Iran and China, Russia, and others can't get away with this scot free.
So I guess the quick thing I want to do is ask you a question somebody sent me. They said, Gabriel said this isn't a done deal yet. Can you elaborate on that? And, you said Congress has the power to stop this. It's not too late. What do you mean by that, too? What measures can they take? So there's two quick questions for you over there, Gabriel, and then we'll move on. Go ahead.
So, this is a multi-step process. The way I actually saw this is basically just, this is really early stages of what they announced, which is they're going on house arrest. At this point, one, the Iranian prisoners in the U.S. need to be released, likely on some form of, they're on bail or they're on some temporary relief. And during that time, Treasury is going to work to send or give the South Koreans license to send the $6 billion to the banks in Qatar. And then at that point, Iran's going to want verification that it can actually access these funds by doing some approved purchases. At that point, once they've tried in a test transaction, then there'll be a flight with Americans out to Qatar, and whatever Iranians want to go back to Iran can go back to Iran. Many of them are actually going to want to stay here with their families because they've been enjoying life in the United States, which is much better than life in Iran. So one, it's not finished yet. It's the first part. What I always say is Congress has the power to do almost anything it wants. It almost never actually does. If you had sort of a unitary legislative branch where one person made all the rules, it could be very easy. You could pass law and block this. Realistically, with a filibuster, with Democrats giving the administration leeway to do whatever they want, there is not going to be legislation. But yes, in theory, Congress could legislate and do a prohibition of funding to the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Treasury for this activity. In all reality, that's not going to do it because, frankly, congressional leadership is, one, split, and two, refuses to do their jobs and refuses to uphold the legislative branch's purview of power. And that's not a Democrat or Republican thing. That's a long-term, decades-long abrogation of their authority to the executive branch.
Yeah, got it. Eli and I'll go to you, and then I'll go to Alex. Go ahead.
Hey, Xerxes. I don't necessarily agree with this, but I wonder if maybe some of the softness on Iran is on basically oil balances and trying to deprive the Russians of export revenues. Supposedly, Iran has been based on the numbers that I've seen, I think they're exporting about 750,000 barrels a day more, maybe even 1 million barrels a day more, since the third quarter of 2022. There's been a lot of work, by the Biden administration to also get Venezuelan barrels onto the markets. And supposedly the rumor is that the White House and the federal government have kind of loosened oil export sanctions on Iran, and I'm wondering if this is just about a reduction in U.S. bargaining power on commodities, with the situation in Russia and basically trying to get more oil on the market. I don't think it's a good idea. Obviously Iranian drones are being used by the Russians, but I wonder if that sort of affects some of the balances here.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, if anybody has any insight, they can weigh in on it. Jason, do you have any insight on that, on kind of how the Russia piece is affecting this? Or I don't really have much to say on that, but I think it's a good way to look at it.
I don't think that I think that the lax sanctions enforcement is more geared towards the administration's desire to quote de-escalate tensions with the Islamic Republic, and so I don't think that it may have a secondary benefit, sure, but as it relates to what we're doing with Russia. But I think the primary goal is to achieve an understanding to de-escalate, and the administration views lax sanctions enforcement as basically achieving that goal. But at the same time, it's undermining its diplomacy because let's remember one of the main reasons why the JCPOA revival talks failed was because the U.S. was not enforcing its sanctions aggressively enough to sharpen the choices of the Iranian regime, and they're now repeating this same playbook in the development of some kind of diplomatic understanding that they think is then going to magically morph into this more formal deal, and they're repeating the same mistakes that led to the failure of negotiations in the first place. And undertaking those same set of steps in future diplomacy. So that's what I would add on that point.
Yeah, thanks for that. I hope that answered. Yeah, go ahead, Alina, if you want to
Oh,
respond
no,
to
no,
that.
I just wanted to thank him.
Yeah, great. Sarah, I have a quick question to you, just because I asked it to Nick and Emily. Anytime we see one of these things, I always feel, I'm always thinking about you guys first, because you guys put your necks out there. You're working your asses off on the Massa Act front. So I'm curious, kind of, have you guys talked about next steps, or what are you thinking about when you saw this? You're like, gee, I mean, this is what we've got to do, or we got to start doing things differently. Is there anything you're thinking about right now that you're talking to your friends about, or to get involved here? Was there anything there?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I haven't spoken in a space today, but um, I had a 15-hour day. I'm really exhausted. A lot of things happened today. We started off the day with a lovely senator meeting. We've gotten a lot of great feedback that once August recess is over, that we will be getting co-sponsorships from a bunch of senators on the Massa Act. But when this news, we got this bomb dropped on us, it kind of like diminished all the progress I feel like that we've made and made things feel a lot more negative. It's really sad, but I can't say that I'm surprised. There was renewed news that was coming out that, hostages were taken from, or, American hostages were taken from Afghanistan, and a lot was going on in the days leading up to this. Emily and I, and Nick as well, we all spoke about it. And I think I just got off of a phone call actually with a different group of activists, and we are talking about next steps about how we're going to mobilize the community to raise our voices and express our disdain for this decision. I posted a video and I spoke briefly about it, and I said, I'm not upset that the hostages were released. In fact, I'm happy. Um, I have seen videos of some of the daughters of some of the hostages, and I am very happy that they are going to be able to go home to their families. Now, what I'm not happy about is the fact that this administration gave over $1 billion for each hostage, and we still have American nationals that are sitting in Iran that are just being overlooked. And that's the part that breaks my heart. And it makes me scared for the future. A lot of us are out here with our first and last names, and we're of Iranian descent, and obviously have large targets on our backs. And it makes you think, like, can we safely travel abroad, not just to Iran, but to different countries? Is there, an increased, safety element here that we have to start thinking about? These are all things that, when these decisions are made, it hits so close to home because we are Iranian Americans. This is everyday life for us. These are things that are not only pressing as national security risks, but also individual risks for us, for our families, for our friends, for people that we know traveling to and from Iran. It's very, very gutting, and it's very disappointing. But we didn't come this far to only come this far. And so I can assure everyone listening to this that we will not be stopped at this point. We will keep going. We will keep advocating for our people in Iran. We're approaching the 1 year anniversary of the death of Masa Amini. We will be memorializing her on that day. We will be continuing to mobilize our community to take further action, to register to vote, to contact their elected officials. And this advocacy does not end here just because of this disappointing news. That was a little bit more long-winded than what I wanted to, originally say. But thank you all for listening to me, and mic off.
No, you're good. You're good, and I'm glad you said that. I think, yeah, that's the mindset I think you guys always need to have. Never look at this as like, there always has to be optimism there. I always was annoyed when people looked at, the Massa Act or that group and just they understood it through the context of just what the bill that was being proposed when in reality it was, an Iranian community that just needed to get off its ass. Sorry, pardon my language, but that's the way I felt about it. At the very least, I think that's what you guys are doing, which is why, now I look to the future of like, what's the next steps? I mean, Nick, am I crazy to think about it the way I do when I say, the next steps for the Iranian community is to be, we need to start identifying the people who are going to be promoting, the policy that we want, and those who don't. I mean, is it crazy of me to look that far ahead and see that's just the next step of it? Because I think one of the things we talk about a lot is the organizations we don't like, which is NIAC. But one of the things that we saw them do is they identify the people that support their policy preferences and they push them. We know their candidates. Okay, so like I think that's something that we have to replicate, but but for candidates that support, the policies we want, which is opposite of what NIAC wants, obviously. And Nick, am I crazy to think of that as a negative? I mean, is that something you've looked ahead at?
Yeah, you're 100% right, actually, and thank you so much, Sarah. She said it beautifully. Everything, obviously, this is not good news. We're upset. We're really, honestly, pissed. Not only because we're, advocating for the Iranian people, it's just that we are, like Sarah mentioned, that this is a threat to our security now. But in all fronts, in all regards, as an advocate and as a normal citizen, as an Iranian American, as just being just an American, everything, all regards, this is really, really upsetting. But yeah, like you mentioned, Xerxes, like Massa Act and other legislation is something for us to build those relationships. But definitely in terms of getting these, we need to show more influence. Well, obviously the influence that we have with our own community, getting everyone on board, but also putting influence on these politicians is definitely the next steps. We need to show, there are two ways. They either, these politicians, we either could fund them, support them, their campaigns, or we show that we're going to support their opponents. So those are the actions that we need to take if they are unwilling. And all these, we can get all these politicians and representatives and senators to be on board, and White House and the diplomats to get on board if we show that sort of influence. And you're definitely right. Yeah, we need to we need to mobilize more on it. And then if these people knew the political costs to it, we could first show the political cost through our influence, through getting our people to understand that this was horrific. We're upset. Um, put that political cost to it, but we also need to put that political cost in the ways that you mentioned. Like we need to support their opponents. We need to and we need to we need to take these people out of office, and we can definitely do this. We have the community. There's more of us. Like we have the power. Don't underestimate yourselves. Like we really have the power. We can change the sentiment. We can change the narrative to become the correct narrative. Like this is they tried to do this, pull this last minute. They tried to I don't know what it was for, to show that they're making deals with this terrorist regime. I don't know, bringing oil prices down, whatever it may be. They wanted to get this through. Unfortunately, there was not enough political cost to it. Like we, as a community, like in the past, right now we're becoming much better. In the past, like we did not show this. We've been fooled by these Islamic Republic apologists. They're using these domestic issues to prop up these horrible politicians. And if we no longer show that, like we show, like this is the number one issue. Iran's the number one issue. It's important in all fronts. Like even if you care about those domestic issues, like if you're going to hurt the poor Iranian people, how can you say that you care about women's rights? How can you say you care about bodily autonomy? Don't get that out of our face. Like you don't belong in politics. If we show that and we do that, in a more organized fashion, um, and I think honestly we're really getting there. I think that the whole grassroots needs to be there. Then the organizations will form out of it. It's like like not everyone could be a part of an organization, but if the grassroots movement is there, and we call it decentralized, whatever you want to call it, it's like true grassroots, not influenced by anything, grassroots movement. Everyone is on the same page. This is we're all the consensus are all aligned. We all want the same thing. There's more of us, yes, there's a few rare people, but like we all align perfectly. So if we all come out, the grassroots activists are there, and we stay active there, I think naturally, if we give it a little bit of a push, that the groups, the organizations will be formed, or existing organizations that are good will become stronger, and they can do these things. But yeah, we do need to give that push there.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. I by the way, I did put Gabriel's video in the Jumbotron. This is just perfect ammunition, by the way. Like I'm going to really be holding on to this one when it comes to talking to other people. When it comes to I talk to a lot of people. It's funny. I have like debates with these people, and they're like, "Well, it's really the U.S. is the aggressor," and it's like, these guys, as a matter of like funding their regime, take Americans hostage. Like I can't stress this enough, how much we need to bring this kind of stuff to the forefront. There's a lot of people you'll talk to who are just unfamiliar with the power dynamic here between the Islamic Republic and America. And they look at it as if like, how could you Iranians be against sanctions relief? Iran is the real victim here. You guys need to find as much ammunition as possible to show the true colors of these guys. And the best part about it is like, we don't really have to fabricate this stuff or go through secondary sources. They tell us themselves, okay? Khamenei himself says these things. IRGC commanders themselves say these things. When Qasem Soleimani killed 600 American troops inside of Iraq, we didn't need a secondary source to tell us that. He was the one bragging about Humvees being eviscerated and American troops being maimed inside these Humvees. Okay, so we need to bring that ammunition to the forefront, show these people their true colors. The only victim here is Iranians who are hostages inside of Iran. And I think that's the way sometimes, like, hold on to these videos. I bookmark all of this stuff. Come with receipts. Never get caught flat-footed in these things. We know who the victims are, and it's certainly not any cleric inside of Iran. Okay, Emily, go ahead. You're my co-host. And then I want to get to a couple other people. Then I have a quick question for you, Gabriel, while you're here. I know, guys, you DM me a bunch of stuff. If you want to come up here and ask him questions yourself or ask me questions, go ahead. I know we got a couple people requesting right now, so I'll funnel people around. But Emily, I'll go to you. Then I'll go to the Shaw, then Ember, and then I'll get to, Alex. I'll go to Emily and then Alex. Emily, go ahead.
Thanks. I think that Sarah worded it just perfectly. But there was a couple things that I also wanted to mention. I'm not sure if everyone here in this space knows about Shi Wei, but he was actually held hostage in Iran, and there was no ransom. There was nothing that the U.S. paid to get him back. So if you guys don't know about Shi Wei, I think that it would be great to look into his story. But also, regarding what Nick just said, I think that with the grassroots activists that are, for example, advocating for the Mass Act right now, it would be amazing for a lot more Iranian Americans in specific that are fluent in the English language as well, to start, with some action items. I think that right now, well, in Farsi, I like to say باید این خشم رو تبدیل کرد به یک نتیجه. And I think right now is the time to sort of put this anger and turn it into some action items, because that's really what we need right now. Some of these action items can be, for example, if you're not anonymous on social media, if you're out here on Twitter, with your face out there, your first and last name out there, I think it's a great time to perhaps take a video of yourself, recording yourself, and asking politicians, expressing your disappointment, asking politicians to highlight this issue on their social media platforms, or if you have ever spoken to your representative or senator in the past, or if you have any type of connection with them, it's definitely the time right now to either post a video and tag them, asking them to highlight this. I know that today there was a lot of representatives and senators that spoke out on this issue, and a lot of them made many tweets on this, expressing how incredibly disappointed they were in the Biden administration. So I think that would be smart to maybe tomorrow or next week, to make a call to your own representative as the constituent that you are, and leave a message for your representative or for your senator, asking them to highlight this issue, because it's putting your life at risk and you are their constituent. So I think that that's one thing that you guys could do, as well as perhaps making calls to the White House. I know that they have a comment line that you can ask to be connected to leave a message and express your disappointment. So I think that there's different ways to sort of take action, because I know that it's very easy, and even for me, I can relate to this. It's very easy for us to oops, can you guys hear me? Okay. Sorry, someone called me. But I think
Just block her number. Block her number.
I should. I'm so sorry. Um, I think that it's very easy for us to just express our disappointment through words, but action items are needed right now. So I would recommend doing that, especially tomorrow, and making some calls, as well as tagging them on social media. I know that everyone has a busy schedule, so you might not be able to make some calls to your politicians, but even just tagging representatives on your social media platforms. A lot of these representatives do run their own Twitter accounts, they do run their own Instagram accounts. So if you just simply even tag them and ask them to highlight this issue on their platforms, it will help a lot. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, thanks for that. Alex, go ahead, and then I'll send it to the Shaw, and then Gabriel, we'll get back to you, man. Go ahead, Alex. Sorry for keeping you waiting, bro.
No, brother. No, it's my pleasure. I do apologize. I'm at work tonight. I got to be Superman with a cape at the hospital. So they called me and I had to go take care of the situation. But it's good to be back. Gabriel, it's good to see you. Jason was here. I hope everyone's doing okay. Look, I'm going to be very quick and frank with it because I don't want to keep the discussion going far too long. But look, we have to we got kicked in the balls today, okay? And I think a lot of people did not see this coming. Most of us probably saw it coming. I don't know. But this was a kick in the balls. And we just got to pick it back up. We got to gain the momentum. We can't let this derail us. 2024 is a very important year. and I said it earlier in the space, in Nick's space today, and I'll say it again here. 2024, vote for the people who are for the Iran policy. Maximum pressure, maximum support. Okay, I'm pretty sure we have an idea what needs to happen. And look, it's very close to the rally day for September 16th. And one of the things I did not say in the earlier space, and I'll say it here because I was able to make some calls and talk to my family back home. The people in Iran are watching. Okay, Biden is a traitor. They know it. He's a protege of Jimmy Carter, and we can't be surprised with that. When this revolution happened last year, we knew that this president was incompetent for the Iran policy. This was already in the works. And look, as someone who has seen people die, and as someone who has family back home, I can assure you that we should not be taking the grass by this. I think what we need to do is keep moving forward and rally like we've never rallied before. Be on social media, put videos out there. I think that's a hell of a great idea. We need to become the journalists. And Shahzadeh said something. It's like, we can't wait on Russia. We can't wait on China. We can't wait on the United States. We have to do, Iranian people need to take their own country back, and we need to do it ourselves. And when I say ourselves, I'm talking about this community, and we need allies to do that. People like Jason Brodsky and Gabriel, they're allies. We need their wisdom and expertise. So I encourage people to do that. Massa Act was a victory. Massa Act was absolutely bipartisan, and it showed that the people in the Iranian American community in the diaspora can make their voices heard. So that's a victory. $6 billion, it's a lot of money. And look, we can be upset about it. I was pretty upset, but I wasn't surprised. We got to be the voice for the voiceless. I've said that time and time again. We have to be the voice for the voiceless. People in Iran are getting executed every day. Okay, and I think this is a very good opportunity for all of us to come together. I know there's been a lot of drama in the behind the scenes, and I've kind of been out of the loop on spaces because, I've dealt with personal stuff that's related to this revolution. But it's not about me. It's about the people of Iran. And I think we need to bring it back to that. So I applaud you, Xerxes John. I applaud you, Emily, Sarah, Nick, everybody who has been fighting since day one, everybody who's been posting, everybody who's been absolutely taking this by the horn and literally making this their goal for a free and democratic Iran. When I see photos of what Iran used to be, when I see photos that you share, Xerxes John, when I see photos that Emily shares, it really inspires me, and then I see my brother Shahram, who's an Azeri and I'm a Kurd. We are going to take our country back, okay? With or without the Biden administration, they have showed their true colors. And with that being said, I think that, this is a good opportunity for us to come back to spaces. This is a good opportunity for us to do the strategy. I think it's a good opportunity for us to organize better. I think we have been ignored far too long. For 44 years, we've been ignored. They have played with people's lives. They have played with Iranian people's money, and look at what it's got. $6 billion are now in the hands of our occupiers, who are now going to use that. 50% of that will go to the nuclear program, and 50% will use that to Gasha Airshot to kill more innocent women and innocent blood. That's all that money's going to go into. To think that this is humanitarian, you are crazy. Because again, I said it earlier, and I'll land my plane with this. If they really cared about humanitarian right now, then why the hell are you starting wildfires in my city, where literally you have literally killed animals, forestation, and you're destroying its eco-terrorism, what they have done. But guess what? My people are literally using old school tactics to quash the wildfires. That is what's going to happen. The Iranian people, the Iranian diaspora is so smart, so resilient that yes, the president of the United States has decided to stab us in the back, but the Iranian American community can make their votes and their voices heard. And that's what 2024 is all about. It's not about Republicans, it's not about Democrat, it's about common sense. And as someone who is a libertarian, I can tell you that Iran policy is the #1 goal for whoever's going to run for president and gets that nominee. I promise you that. We need teeth to this. And unfortunately for Biden, it's not even teeth. It's just crowns and fillings. And $6 billion are now in the hands of her oppressors. So again, I came in here because I wanted to listen to everybody, Xerxes John. I'm going to land my plane with that. I am not upset. I'm upset what happened today, but I'm also very, very determined, because when I see everybody in this room, when I see people like Emily and Nick and Sarah and Parastu and you, brother, for making this room and space happen tonight, all these people are coming in. I see that they care for their country, and I also see that they care for the people of Iran, and it makes my heart melt when I see that. So clap your hands for all of you guys, and thank you so much for doing what you're doing. And I'm very honored and proud to be in this room tonight. And like I said, I'm at work, but I wanted to let everybody know I see what everybody's doing. Keep doing here. This fight's not over. I promise you that. Thank you, Xerxes John.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Those are really kind words. I appreciate it. And I can't wait till you start doing your room so we can all go in there. Amber, I think you had your hand up. So if you want to go ahead, I'll go to you, and then I'll get to Gabriel. Go ahead.
Hey there. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you sound great. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'm dialing in from Australia, from Sydney, and of course I watch very carefully what happens in the US because it very much influences what happens in Australia too. And I think it's an influential role that's playing out globally anyway, as far as Iran policy is concerned. So I guess the situation in Australia is that I think unlike in America, the Iran lobby, like there is no NIAC as such in Australia. So maybe it's not as overt as it is in America, even though there's probably elements within the US that are covert. But, at least there's an organization and you can point to a number of organizations that, are effectively advocating for the Iranian regime. So I guess this is a question for those that follow this policy area quite closely. I guess there's a few questions. I was overhearing the conversation earlier around all of the great tips that Emily and others have said around how to really engage on the policy front with politicians specifically. But I guess for someone that's in Australia, I'll give you an example. I saw an article and I kind of went on about it previously around a group of businessmen who went to Iran on a business trip. And in that article, they had an article on the front cover of the Tehran Times, and then on their LinkedIn profile, they wrote something to the effect of how great it was to meet with the Australian ambassador, and isn't it exciting? There's going to be some great deals to be announced shortly. So that basically said to me that there is an Iran lobby in Australia because 3 businessmen from Australia don't just rock up to Iran and get meetings with senior politicians and business leaders in Iran. So I guess the question really is, it might be more for like a Gabrielle type person. Like, what are some of the, I suppose what I'm trying to get at is like, what are some of the steps that an Australian activist could do to try and prevent an Iran lobby really taking root in Australia? Because I would imagine, there is an Iran lobby for sure, but I would think that it's a bit further behind than in some of the other countries. So then there's an opportunity to maybe take some preventative actions. Thank you.
Yeah, Gabriel, you want to take that? I guess, any advice you have for someone who's trying to, I don't know, prevent an Iran lobby taking place or kind of getting involved themselves? Go ahead.
Well, I think it's, I think if your average member of the public pays even a remote amount of time looking at what the Islamic Republic does, they would rather quickly decide for themselves that they're a terror regime and bear no desire to give them sanctions relief, to give them comfort and aid. That is an impulse that is only advanced by Iranian propagandists. It's not something that people in the normal course of life, automatically decide, oh, I think the people who are trying to kill us and murder our politicians and destroy Ukrainian cities, we should give those guys more money, not less money. That's not a natural impulse anyone comes to. So I think the good news is without an active lobby seen by the regime supporters, people don't generally have that opinion. The closest thing that comes to it is countries' foreign ministries. Frankly, you look at European ministries of foreign affairs, you look at Australia's, I think they call it the DFAT, and there's a whole lot of diplomats who buy into some of these notions because they are exposed to the Iranian propaganda agents abroad and embassies and elsewhere who sort of feed them those lines. So in terms of specific advocacy, look, Australia has not yet designated the IRGC as a foreign terrorist organization. That's an effort that would be really strong and important to make in Parliament in Australia. But just keeping, I think one of the first things is, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and keeping an eye out for any initial efforts by the regime's propagandists to make inroads into Australia and calling them out for what they are, for keeping a steady drumbeat on just keeping the public informed of here's what the regime does, here's how they kidnap Australians. People like Kylie Moore Gilbert, and others who they've targeted for assassination, and keeping that public awareness alive is, often a good enough antidote.
Awesome. Thanks for that. The Shaw's man, go ahead. And I got another question for you, Gabriel, after that. Go ahead, the Shaw's man.
Thank you. I'm going to keep it very brief. I just want to say that I'm saying this as a lifelong Democrat and a Bernie supporter. What Biden has done has broken my own personal capability for any sort of tolerance. And I'm going to say what I think a lot of Iranians are thinking, but might be nervous about saying, either in this space or just generally in their communities. And what I'm going to say is that Jimmy Carter betrayed the Shah, Obama started JCPOA, and Biden sold us out. I am voting Trump, and Biden made me do it. So that's just me. You guys can do whatever. Everyone has their own preference. Everyone's okay. I believe in bipartisanship. I applaud the bipartisanship of the Massa Act. I don't think we should shut anyone or any party out. But for me personally, I feel betrayed. I feel like they've hurt us. They've ignored us. I celebrate the ones that didn't. But at the executive leadership level of the Democratic Party, they have not given up on JCPOA. That is part of their platform, whether they say it or not. And I don't know why. Even Obama has said that they made a mistake. Even Obama, I do personally respect the man. He's come out and said that they should have supported Iranian domestic unrest and supporters. We should have supported the Voices for Democracy coming out of Iran. He said that. He quoted it. I can get you the quote if you want. And they don't listen to him. They don't listen to the guy. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I don't pretend to. All I know is I feel betrayed. I feel ignored. I feel like I'm not respected. I'm not valued at all by that leader and the people around him right now, which is Biden. So I feel like I know who I'm voting for. I hope everyone, regardless, I hope you guys register to vote. Register your family to vote. Register your friends to vote. Register your allies to vote. The best thing we can do, regardless if you agree with me or not, register to vote. Get out there and vote. Get as many people as you can. Legally following your state procedures, of course. Read up on those. But get people to vote. It's ridiculous. But yeah, thank you for giving me the chance to say that.
Yeah, bro, of course. And what you said brings up something interesting. I think I heard Adidas Onoda. He was the first one to really bring this up. I heard, but he was talking about like outside. Sorry, my headphones just got I'm using wired headphones, and I don't know if you guys use wired headphones, but you never got them caught on your cabinet knobs and stuff. It's the most annoying. It just happened to me, and I want to end I don't know. I want to set my house on fire. 1 second. Okay. I don't really want to set my house on fire, but to what you were saying, man, one of the things he brought up too is Iranians. A lot of us don't even identify as Iranian on our census. Isn't that crazy? I think we need to do a better job of and to many this might seem as a really small thing, but what Patasu was saying earlier, she's saying are we just being ignored? Are we, we're prominent? And to me, when I hear those kinds of things, it just makes me mad, mainly because she's right. But the biggest problem is we don't even try to represent ourselves most of the time. Where is our big Iranian donors? Where are we need to be much more organized, and we're not. When it comes to what you're saying, man, I'm all about. It's funny, I get a lot of flack for this. Because I do go out and be a little political, but I can't help it. I feel really betrayed. I feel like we try to be really bipartisan, and we still should be. But there's just a big elephant in the room as it relates to those people who are just screwing our community over, and nobody wants to talk about it. And then I talk about it, and it doesn't look good. I get it. I still think we should be bipartisan, but it's not necessarily if you're a Democrat, I'm not even saying that you need to vote for a Republican. That's probably what I'm going to do because it's what I've done. Although I probably used to not do that. But my prescription for this is then, we've had Democrats who were hard on Iran. Look at the ones who signed the Massa Act. Okay, so go find those guys. All right. And don't support the ones who are not on our side. So I mean, that's my policy prescription for it, I would say. I think this whole thing is kind of tough. I think it's, the biggest thing we have to look at is we can't get too discouraged here. This has always been a marathon. During this revolution, I've been really, really upset at times. And I would go to my friend Shahram. He's like my best friend on here. He knows me really well. And I remember like always airing out my frustrations with him. And he would say, listen, man, like this isn't a microwave revolution. And I always think of that term, microwave revolution. But it's true. And like someone like me, like you would think I have my shit together, but I was having so much anxiety, lost so much, I don't know, sleep, hair, the weight over this last few months. And like, sometimes like with the Massac community too, I remember one time I was like pointing out some of these things that were really negative that were happening. And some Iranian messaged me, they told me to stop doing that. And I'm like, why? This is just the reality of the situation. We're being screwed over by members of our own government who are just betraying the Iranian people. And they're like, but when you do that, Iranians get discouraged, and then you'll see it. You'll see them deactivating. You'll see them not participate. And I thought that was wrong. And I told that person straight up, I'm like, you should not. I mean, I don't care. Like, this is what's happening. Like, Iranians need to wake up to our realities, because when we ignore that in the interest of like protecting our feelings, then like we're always going to run into these same roadblocks. I thought that was wrong. Okay, but maybe I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to a lot of these things either. When we first started talking about the Iran thing, I thought that anything other than major, moves was meaningless to me. I didn't like a lot of this performative stuff. I didn't care for your posters or a lot of this like minimal action. But I was wrong. And I was wrong because I didn't understand my own policy prescription, which was, this regime is going to die by 1,000 cuts. It was never going to be one big blow. Okay, so but I discounted all of those tiny cuts. So even I've been wrong, and I've been wrong many times about this. So don't be too hard on yourselves. Massa Act Army Group, you guys are doing just fine. This is like gonna happen. But the last thing I'll say to you, Shawsman, the thing that I think is the most unfortunate part, how come every time there's an uprising, we have people who fail the Iranian people miserably? I just want one time for Iranians to take to the streets and have somebody to have their back. When it was Obama in the streets, they were saying, Obama, Obama, Obama. They thought that he was with them. They were wrong. And he stabbed him in the back. And then years later, he comes out and he says, that was a mistake. I should have had the Iranian people's back. Well, that's too late. Sucks to suck, Obama. You had time to have the Iranian people's back. What I have an even bigger problem with is people who say, well, he's just continuing Obama's policy. Obama's a darling of the Democratic Party, so like this is the direction they should be going. Okay, but even he renounces his own stance on this particular issue. So what am I really missing here? I mean, so I don't even think that that's really where we're going with this. Paris, go ahead. And then Paris, go ahead. And then Gabriel, I'll ask a question I have in the audience for you. Go ahead, Paris.
I just have like a really quick comment, which is when you said this is a marathon, not a sprint. And I agree with that to some degree, but also this was like a calculated blow because they did this right before the anniversary of Massa Amini's death. I feel like this is warfare in some way, and it was very calculated. And they like it doesn't have to be this really long marathon, but their fight. This is like a fight, And this was I don't know. I don't know how to
No. So I see what you're.
or how I feel, but like, yeah, I just feel like you're right to some degree. It's a marathon, but it could like this. We had a really crucial date coming up that could have really been a shifted the dynamic to accelerate this. And I just feel like this was kind of like a calculated timing to release these funds. It both boosts, it lowers morale for the people inside and outside of Iran to feel like there's any hope. And I think that it also, for us right now, we're feeling fired up, but I think it can also lower morale, and it can, and it just gives them money to hire people to manage the uprising they're expecting. That's it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about the timing thing. But Gabriel, correct me if I'm wrong. this was decided like I think the announcement is the important part, Patterson. I think you're honest. And Patterson, don't quit calling yourself conspiratorial. I think I kind of like what you're thinking. I think a lot of us are on the same page as you. But Gabriel, go ahead. I mean, this was decided 2 months ago. So like, was it 2 months ago the parameters of a deal were agreed to, and just now we're like, we passed the goal line, I guess, and this is where we're at right now. Like, I think Patterson's onto something here. Why is this news being announced so late? Did it just get finalized, or were the parameters agreed with months ago?
Well, this deal's been in the making for about 2 years now. The outlines of it were actually finished exactly 2 years ago. It originally was going to be a 4-for-4 prisoner swap, with again that $7 billion, and it was supposed to be tied up with the JCPOA. It was going to be the first stage in the JCPOA, and so it was kind of tied to that for a long time, really until last August. So about a year ago, after which point the JCPOA kind of fell off the agenda. And then it was supposed to happen in March, and then there were last minute things. And then it was supposed to be finalized after that. And then Malley was going to actually execute it, and he got sidelined. So I don't quite agree with that, just because this has been in progress for a very long time, and there's been little hiccups along the road that keep delaying, either sidelining it or delaying it. From here's my perspective is, having worked at the State Department, is there are often times when we would announce something and a reporter would ask us, is this symbolic because on this date 30 years ago XYZ happened? And we would look around ourselves and say, I had no idea that happened. So just having been in the room for a lot of these things, and especially for hostage deals, the hostage deals happen the earliest that you as an administration are able to negotiate it. And as I sort of mentioned earlier, they're typically on a completely separate track from other actions in the bilateral relationship. And so the fact that, I was told a while ago that this was going to come out in August. And so I don't necessarily think it has to do with that date. In fact, if anything, I would say they probably were very intentional not to announce it around the anniversary date, because I think they would be aware of the signal that would send. I think it's also relevant that this won't actually necessarily be executed until, say, a month from now. So it could very well be the case that the hostages actually come home somewhere around the anniversary. Again, from my experience, these things are really, really complex operations that have input from the Department of Justice, White House, State Department, and then all the counterparts on the Iranian side. It's actually very hard to coordinate on the date on it. So that's sort of my answer, is basically I don't actually think that's the case.
Got you. Nick, go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that, actually. I really think it is significant to the date. I think when the negotiations, obviously we don't know, but I think when the negotiations, I don't know, who knows when they started, but in the recent months, the protest, the anniversary is pretty significant, and I think the regime knew that they need to be kind of secure with the funds. And I don't think these people, Bert McGurk and Jake Sullivan and all these folks who are doing the negotiations, I don't think they're stupid. They know these things, so they realize probably the Islamic Republic regime is looking to secure some fundings in case that chaos does take place in the anniversary, starting from the anniversary and on. So they probably tried to secure it before that as well. So that's obviously we don't know, but honestly, I really think I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't honestly doubt it that there is some significance there. It's not just like, this is not just a random date. This is an anniversary where there's calls for protests taking place. And if the State Department and intelligence agency are not aware of this anniversary where there's potential chaos going there's more protests and more the revolution is going to be reignited. If they're not aware of this, I mean, I don't fall for that. So I
So
do
I'd probably clarify. I think the Iranian side absolutely is aware of that, and they absolutely do want the return. They absolutely do want the influx of $6 billion. Ideally, it's something that they can have that week, that month, so they can use it to try to quell domestic unrest. It's more on the U.S. side that I'm not sure that it's intentional there.
Yeah, I mean, I think also, I mean, like, do you really like? I mean, I really can't give benefit of the doubt to the Biden administration because, we saw this similar thing unfold months ago, Gabriel. Whenever, I mean, we heard the first reports of billions of dollars of sanctions relief or assets being unfrozen. I'm not sure of whether or not like the timing matters. Like, I think you're really getting into some some tricky terrain when you're talking about these things. But I mean, I can't really put it past them. I mean, you know it yourself, Gabriel. This isn't a very supportive administration, right? I mean, every step of the way, whether it be legitimizing them through negotiations. We had like one ask this entire process, and it was to walk away from nuclear negotiations. That never happened. So everything up to this point just kind of confirms our suspicions that, I mean, yeah, these guys are just not interested in having the Islamic Republic leave. And I have people that DM me or come into space and they talk about it. I'm sorry, I don't know how you guys are still shocked about this kind of thing. They're looking at it. They're like, how is the Biden? How are they doing this to us? Because it seems like we're not really important in this entire calculation here, guys. Like, I'm sorry, like that's just the reality of being Iranian. Like we're not really at the forefront of decision making here. Because if we were, this would never have dragged on this long. If we were, billions of dollars would not get released. If we were, JCPO negotiations would have been left a long time ago. So, I don't know what to tell you. I get a lot of these DMs from you guys saying, how could this happen to us or something like that? Like you guys are shocked. Like, get used to this. What we've got to do is we've got to make what Nick says is really important. There needs to be a political price paid for this. We have to make this an American issue, a bigger one. We have to make other communities care about this. Because until when it's just Iranians, I mean, this is what you're going to see. We're not moving the needle here. We're not the thing. Like human rights and Iranian human rights abuses, sadly, is not enough. Because if it was, then we would have seen this administration walk away a long time ago. But they haven't. So clearly, there's other interests that supersede our interests, and ours are just it sounded very basic, but it's not. Obviously, it's not the case here. Nick, go ahead, and then Gabriel, I have a question for you. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Xerxes, on making sure that this is an American issue and bring that awareness to all Americans. Because if all Americans knew this would be a national emergency. Honestly, if they were aware of all of this, the pressure. This is intense. Like everyone's safety is more at risk today than yesterday because of what they've done. Like I'm at risk of traveling internationally tomorrow. So I think, yeah, that I 100% agree with you on that. But I think we definitely within our community too, we need to make sure that this frustration and this outrage is shown. I mean, we can't have people of influence within our community then go out and protect Biden. And then when we are trying to, get the opponents of Biden to in the hopes of getting rid of Biden, then they trash and attack that. So we need to set that clear within our communities at least as well too. And I want to add on also the things that Emily said. Like we have a lot of power individually. So if we all come out and make sure, there's videos made, there are tweets made, we show, everyone shows that we do not like what this administration has done. And this is bipartisan, it has nothing to do with Biden. We showed, Democrats or anything, which we showed them for over a year that we try to work with this person and they kept backstabbing us. So there's not, we're just not like, MAGA, whatever they try to label us. This is purely a betrayal, and betrayal needs to lead to us kicking him out of the White House and this whole administration out. So we need to really show that towards the action, like Emily really said, like it needs a frustration, needs to turn to action. We need to show the frustration, and then turn it into action. Get Congress members to also put pressure on Biden, make videos, tell news reporters, write op-eds, whatever, write blogs, whatever we can do. We can shift that narrative to the correct narrative. And like Gabriel also mentioned, naturally, like no one is going to want to support this regime. They're lobbyists that are changing their narrative, and we need to take it back, and we can easily do that. There's just more of us, we have more power. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Nick. Gabriel, I don't know if you've talked about this since it's happened. What is your whole take on the Rob Malley situation? You seem to have a lot of insight when it comes to these hostage negotiations. Up until 2 years ago, you had an idea of, the parameters of this deal, which was a 4-for-4 prisoner swap. So I'm curious, do you have any intel or anything you can talk about as it relates to Malley's situation? Why is this so under the wraps? We're completely in the dark here. What's going on?
Well, that's very much by design from the administration. They do not like the story and they want it to go away as fast as possible. And it's telling that they actually tried their very best to prevent the public from knowing that his clearance was taken away at all by, from my understanding, faking a family health issue and telling Congress that the reason he couldn't come testify to Congress was because he had a sick relative or something. It goes without saying that is highly unethical and potentially illegal, what they did. And I was told by a lot of senior congressional staff, oh, hey, lay off him. He's got a sick family member, when that was clearly misleading or a lie. So in terms of what's happening now, so there's a process. Basically, it's actually a very closed door process where when your security clearance is being investigated, you are supposed to be paid on unpaid leave. They only put him on unpaid leave when the media found out, and at a certain point, then the intelligence community basically comes back and says, either we looked into it and it's not a big deal and you have your clearance back, or B, your clearance has been taken away and now here's your process to fight that. And here's what you've been, accused of. There are various privacy laws that typically don't allow any of that to be public. Normally, these are low-level officials and these things are done behind closed doors. Because this is such a senior official, this is the top U.S. official in Iran, there's a strong both congressional and public interest in knowing what happened here. I have heard various things. It's not really my place to speculate on what those is in an open
No, it's
forum.
your place. It's your place, Gabriel. It's your place.
I try to do. I have heard things from credible people, but I will, in deference to them in the process, not share those at this time. But it is what to me concerns me the most is that there was a cover up by the State Department on this. Going back to the earlier conversation, I think one simple thing that people listening can do is tomorrow look up your local member of Congress and senators and look up a couple nearby and see, have they made a statement about this hostage deal? And if they have, call them and thank them for saying it. And if they haven't, call them and say, why haven't you, what is the senator's or representative's stance on this hostage deal? Will you put out a statement on it? I've been a staffer. Those calls go up to the national security staff and they say, hey, what is our position on this? And if they've already put out a statement and they get a call from the front desk, they're going to go and say, hey, we got a call. They really appreciate our statement. That makes a huge difference, especially if you get 10 people calling an office. Staffers notice that. So take 20 minutes out of your day tomorrow, make a few calls. You don't need to call everyone in the phone book, but just make a quick 1-minute call, either thank people or suggest, hey, can you make a statement? This is appalling what we're doing here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's something I brought up earlier in the space. I said, or if nobody's made a statement, you should go after. Well, I don't want to say go after. It sounds very aggressive, but you should press those senators, congressmen, and ask them to make a statement on where they stand with this. One of the things I thought that was really powerful, and I thought it got a lot of traction domestically across the country, was whenever the situation with Rob Malley unfolded. We had a lot of people coming out being like, "What the hell is going on here?" Like there's zero transparency here, and then that sort of thing resonates with the American people. But we need to make those. I think those things are the things we need to make the biggest deal about. Um, Also, when things happen internationally with the IRGC, those are the things that like I'm looking at to really push. But I digress. I see we got a hand up here. Hangame Abraham. Hangame, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to take too much of your time. Nick had a post earlier, and he is encouraging everyone to register to vote. I would encourage everybody to register to vote as an independent. I am a Republican. I am running for office in Southern California. I'm running for assembly. But the votes that every candidate right now is after, whether statewide or nationwide, is the independent votes, because a lot of people are unhappy with both sides. But the other thing is that last year I came on to one of the spaces and I said, out of all the Iranians in the United States, only 10% of us are registered to vote. That number has not gone up despite the efforts that we are putting in. We need to register to vote. We should register to vote as independents so we can talk to both parties and have them work in our favor. I was easily able to get an appointment with Senator Tim Scott's office because he is a presidential candidate. Go after the ones who are up for election in 2024 first. Go after the ones that need your vote, want your vote. So look and see who's up in Congress, presidential, Senate, whoever is up on the ballot for 2024. Go after them first. And please, I'm a Republican. I work for the Republican Party, but I'm begging you, register and register as an independent, because that's going to make us want to work for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Hangam, man. That's good to know. Let me go to my co-hosts here. Shahram, you've been quiet all night, so I'll go to you first, and then Emily, and then we'll go to you, Alex. Go ahead, Shahram.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. Make sure that your state is not a closed primary state, because if you register as an independent, you can't vote in the primaries. So you would essentially only be able to vote for whoever the candidates are at the end, if that matters to you. So just be aware of that if you do register as an independent. Make sure your state is an open primary state. I personally like well, I don't want to say too much, but um I would say look at the pros and cons of registering as an independent in a closed primary state. If you're an open primary state, I see no reason to not be an independent. I think it's better that way, but that's just my opinion. Just do your research beforehand.
Yeah, I've seen both things. I've seen Scott Pressler put out a statement saying, if you like support Trump and register as an independent, you're actually hurting him. There's many states where you must be registered as a Republican to vote in presidential primaries. I don't know if that's the same with Democrats, but I don't know, hang on, if you're talking about just generally for like state, local elections, if that's what you're talking about. But I know there's many states where if you're registering as an independent, you might actually not be able to, like you have to be registered as a Republican. I just know this for the Republicans. I don't know if this is the same with Democrats, but you must be registered as a Republican to vote in those presidential primaries. So I think it's something to talk about. I'm not exactly sure on how that works entirely, but I know that's the fact. That's the way it works for at least like 6 states. I know Arizona, California, Florida. Some of these states, like you have to be registered as a Republican to vote even in presidential primaries for for a candidate. But I think it's a good discussion to have. We'll talk about it. Emily, go ahead, and then we'll go to Alex.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize on what Gabriel just said a few minutes ago, regarding, even just tomorrow making a call to your own representative. Even, of course, as I said earlier, it's really important to ask your representative and your senator to, make public statements on what's going on, and request that, they speak out on how, this administration should not be funding the Islamic Republic. But I think that it's also as important to thank your representative and thank your senator as well if they have already spoke out on it, because just hearing from their own constituents, thanking them, is also really important, and it will encourage them to continue to speak out on it when they see that their constituents are appreciating it. So I, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I agree. Alex, go ahead. And guys, I'm going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. We've been going about 2.5 hours. I think 11:30, 12:30, and 9:30 Pacific Standard. I'm going to wrap up here. Alex, go ahead. We'll go to Elham. I want to bring up one last thing, and then we're going to get you on out of here. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, of course. Xerxes, John, the only thing that you just make sure you don't wrap your headphones up like you just did earlier. I'm kidding.
Did you hear that? Did you hear me? Like I was like visibly
I
like
did. I did.
jeez, man.
Yeah.
And like that's like and when those happen, like you have those days that are really bad, like where you like go to your front door to your apartment and your keys drop when you're trying to put them in the lock. Your headphones get, it's one of those days for me. But I digress. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I almost fell head first one time when I had the headphones you did. It's okay. I was trying to be funny, trying to light the room up for a little bit because we've been kind of serious for this whole day today. Look, I think what we need to do, Xerxes John, and I'm encouraging everybody in this room to do it. And I know everybody has a schedule. I have one. And look, the 16th of September is going to be a huge day. It's going to be a rally day. I'm sure everybody's going to be out protesting in their specific cities. But we need to have a space to literally have updates about what's going on because I know there's going to be a Farsi room about it, but we need to have one in English. And we also need to bring any journalist connection we have, any kind of, resource to this revolution for the year anniversary. We need to, like I just said earlier, we need to accelerate this like we haven't before because I'm telling you, people in Iran are absolutely going to come out because one of the things that happened today is I talked to about 15 compatriots, different various cities with the internet being shut down and various communications. I can tell you that they are ready. They're telling me Alex Strong, so it's like we need to, as Iranian American community diaspora, we need to be their voices. And Xerxes John, I will get with you later after this room is done. And I think we need to coordinate. All of us need to coordinate and organize for that day. And it just shouldn't even be that day. It has to be every week. We need to talk about it. Sunday nights you have the Massa Act room. I've been out for a little bit, and I need to back up what I'm trying to say too. But I had to handle some personal stuff because this revolution has been handled to me personally. I've lost people who I truly love, and all that. But I think that with tonight's encouragement, all I can say is that we need to organize better, and also we need to have a room dedicated to the rally of September 16th, which is the 1 year anniversary of Masa Amini. So I think that needs to happen, and I'm willing to organize that with people in this room. And you know who you are, and I think we need to galvanize that. We need to get these resources out there. We're less than a month away. The days are getting younger, and the countdown's just started. So I just wanted to put that, and again, Xerxes John, thank you for the zahma ke shama keshidi imshab, and to everybody who's spoken. I've just been listening, and I've just been, this fire is finally coming out, and it's sad that this had to happen to get us together. But I'm hopefully praising that one day, that when we get our country back and when this rally day happens, we get together and we finally get to see our country prevail. Thank you so much. That's all I wanted to say. God bless.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate it. Bella, let's hear from you. I haven't heard from you. So Bella, go ahead. Then we'll go to Elham. Go ahead, Bella.
Thank you. I just want to say that this afternoon, one of the first things I did was to start emailing my contacts in Congress. And out of the 12 that I emailed today, 3 or 4, I think 3 came back that they were on vacation because they're out of the session right now. A lot of the DC people are on vacation. So if you're calling tomorrow, make sure that you call both offices, or if you're emailing, whatever. But if you're calling, make sure that you call both the local office and the DC office. That's just my 2 cents for tonight. Thank you, guys.
Got it. Elham, go ahead. Thanks for that, Bella.
Thank you so much for the time again. Okay, so I'm just hoping, folks, like through all this great work that you put in, and maybe we can also look into like some, corrective actions. I find us like in like a reactive mode all the time, and I understand it's complicated, it's complex, but I'm just thinking, I don't know who else knew it like yesterday. I'm just thinking we should not accept the reality that we came to know about this news through the news channel. And I think we should find a way as to like how we can improve this, get ahead of it, like maybe a few days. And can we do something about it? I don't know. I mean, have we exhausted all the options? I don't think so, but we can talk about it another time. But what I'm trying to say is I don't know who knew about this coming out today. If we didn't know about it earlier, prior today, then we should ask ourselves why. And I think we have to kind of like maybe fix the communication or what have you. I mean, something is not connected that we who are supposedly involved in this process don't know about this deal ahead of time. So that's one thing. I think we should look into it and have some corrective actions, or lessons learned or what have you. So then the second thing I wanted to say, when calling the representatives or the senators, I think I saw a few tweets on Twitter to say, folks have been disappointed or angry. I mean, rightly so. But, they were kind of like really not nice on the phone talking to representatives, So then the U.S. representatives, or I don't know if they were senators or representatives, but anyways, they were like, sharing information like as if we are hostile or like we were not appropriate. I'm just saying I know we're angry about the whole situation. We're unhappy. But just be careful how you express it. It's important to keep it formal, and I know you guys all do. But I mean, I saw those tweets and I thought like this should be communicated. Just share some pain points. Like today we had this meeting with you know with our Illinois representative. And, when we were talking to her secretary, or I don't know, her office manager, and, we were we shared some videos and pictures of like, and documents about what's actually happening in Iran. And so she was actually very responsive to that. I think like, maybe use those kind of techniques, or, send in the emails, like that kind of a resource. I can share with you some videos about like, that we use today. And it seemed like the person who was listening.
Elham, I'm curious. What are you talking about? You said people were like, communicating hostile,
Oh
like
yeah, right. There were
with
tweets. Yeah, I
hostile.
know. I'm going to send you.
Who are you? What?
I'm going to send you the tweets that they were like. I don't know who did it, but there were like 3 representatives. They posted on their account on Twitter that Iranians, they were hostile. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, I mean, like, we're angry. I mean, rightfully so, right? I mean, this is unacceptable. It shouldn't have been, the situation with Iran and the deals. It's just really unacceptable. So yeah, we are angry. But like the way we communicate, though, it came out. I will send you the tweets. I was very surprised, actually. That was like last 10 days ago. But I'm just saying, just be mindful. Like, I don't know what was told. I didn't look into it. I don't like that kind of a gossip. But I just got the message that this image is being portrayed. Just be careful. We don't want to be hostile. What we want is that we really need to just the United States to start dealing with this regime. I mean, I guess that's what we want. We got to have to make it formal and appropriate. That's what I'm trying to say. I will send you the tweet so you will know it was on Twitter, so it can't be just me who saw it. I mean, I'm sure somebody, I mean, okay. So the last thing I wanted to say, now it skipped my mind. Okay, so about the date, the date coming up. And I really agree with Alex. I think that's a great idea, but I think we can also get ahead of that date. Like, what they did last time around in September, October, November, and in months after that, they were talking about the internet, the internet was disconnected, or like was very poor, and like the other, I mentioned to you, the torture centers and stuff like that. So we can get ahead of the date and just like kind of like be the voice of the people in the country to say these things are anticipated, they can happen again. And if they can help the people somehow on those regards, I don't know, but I'm just saying we can start earlier than that date, and start advertising, like not advertising, start communicating what could go wrong, if the demonstration is on the street, what could go wrong, like that's just before. I think that can kind of like build up a momentum which can help the people. And the last thing, when I'm sitting here and listening, this is just my thing, I always do that. I'm thinking if the regime wanted it to influence our work, our action, how could they do that? So when I think about it, this is my take. Uh, Making this as a political party matter can sabotage our work. That's my take, and I'm personal opinion. What I mean by that is that regardless of political party, which I know there is this the Biden's the administration is really not cooperating. Okay, but regardless of the party, we should be just as aggressive. And yes, we should vote 100%. And I like the other lady who said independent. I didn't realize that. So, but anyways, so, yeah, those options are there, long-term plans. But I think for the short term and also like few months down the road, let's just fight hard for this. We cannot accept on a same day announcement. I mean, if we are involved in the process, we should know a few days earlier. I mean, I don't know, maybe this is too much to ask, but Gabriel was here today, and at the end, as he was talking, he was saying like 2 years ahead, they were doing this deal, and then they wanted to do it like with JCPOA, and then they just decided like the March and then the August. So it was going to come in August, and I didn't know. Okay, so then he said, and then in his words, he said, yeah, well, it could be related to this date, well, they're funding the regime. And then earlier on, he said this. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, we should have known earlier than this date.
Yeah, but Elham, I mean, everyone found out today.
That's what I'm
The
saying. We
news
shouldn't
reported it.
accept that. We
How?
shouldn't accept that. We
I,
should have known
I
earlier.
mean, like, listen, if I could break into the Oval Office and get Biden to deliver the news to me personally, I would start a space and let you know. But it's
I'm
like,
not
I
sure
mean,
if you
we're kind
understand
of,
what I'm saying. I don't think we should
we're
accept
kind of,
that. I think we should know earlier.
uh,
If you're working with this process, right, we should know where the communication failed, because I don't think they,
I know, but Elham, you're okay. Like, not everything though. Like, I don't understand like where we're supposed to get this. Like, I get what you're saying. I just don't think this level of transparency exists when it's like, we're not sitting in the room with Joe Biden when he's making these deals. Like, I mean, if we had somebody on the inside, that would be great. That's just not the reality of how these
well,
things
maybe
work.
that is what we need to
Uh,
do. Maybe we need to work really hard to get
I mean,
somebody, from inside. I'm just saying, maybe that is what you're saying, the reason. Okay, well, it is the reason. So, but maybe we can explore that reason. How can we get in? But I think, Gabriel he said it was anticipated in August. So we should have had at least anticipated this. I don't know what you're saying. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say, Gabriel said that tonight, right? He said this was done like 2 years ahead, and then they wanted to do it with JCPOA, and then they did it in March, and then it didn't work out, whatever. I mean, they wanted to do it in March, and then they decided to do it in August. So we could have known that pattern, like,
Elham. So the thing with that is, it's like the JCPOA. The parameters of the JCPOA were understood years before, but the deal is not finalized until the deal is finalized. The parameters of a hostage negotiation here were understood, and we all kind of knew this was coming. I mean,
oh, okay, so
and
I
then we
didn't
should.
know. Okay, so if you
Well,
knew
no,
it was coming,
but
okay.
Elham, we didn't know it was going to happen. But like, these things are out there. There's hostages, and there's negotiation. And by the way, there's more hostages, and you should expect this to happen again, right? So like, if you're talking about getting ahead of it, well, we have other hostages that weren't released. Okay, so those are next. So that's where our expectation is. But this news isn't released until it's finalized. The other thing I'll say is I get a lot of what you're saying. I hear your frustrations. I want you to recognize like the limitations we have to deal with, because this is the tough part about being a diaspora. If Sarah and Emily were working in the State Department, I think we'd be really well off. But like, like we have them in a good situation right now. What we have is activists, and what we can do is activism. And I want to say your point when it comes to making this not political. I agree and I disagree. Okay, like, I'm someone, let's just say, I mean, I don't really want to get into my politics. I
No,
think
I
everybody
don't want to
knows
get
it.
into politics.
But
What I'm trying to
no, no,
say,
no, no, no.
this will
But
work for regime.
Elham.
Hold on, Khashayar. Let me finish my point. This will help the
Wow, okay,
regime
go ahead.
because regime would like us to feel like to lose the momentum or like to lose our commitment because this administration is not the party of our choice. You know what I'm trying to say? That should not even come to our mind. Our
Yeah, I know, Elham. Elham, I don't disagree with this. And that's what I'm saying is we are just, I don't know how to say it. Like, we're just lying. Like, we're playing ourselves when we do all of this work. And if you vote for somebody that says he's going to empower the Islamic Republic by giving him a JCPOA, like, I'm sorry, like, that's your fault. Why are you doing that? Now, that's not me saying you have to vote for a conservative or a Republican. But then why don't you shame those people if you're a Democrat and then find Democrats who are going to do the job you want to do? And that's not me being political. That's telling me that you should stop voting for people who tell you to your face that they're going to make a deal with the
That's for
Islamic
sure.
Republic.
Yeah.
Now, why are you doing so? That's a distinction we have to make. One of the things that we should all be really proud of when we talk about Emily and Sarah and Nick's accomplishments, and really the whole Maasai army, is that there was a lot of signatories that were Democrats and a lot that were Republicans. Okay, now it would be a real gift to me if, I mean, well, never mind. But I think in general, I think there's room for you guys. Like, our job is going to have to be like, I'm never going to be able to tell somebody who believes is a lifelong Democrat to not be one. Okay, I think that would be nice, but that's just not like, it's just that's not realistic. What I can tell them to do is, and I think what they are going to do, Bella mentioned this earlier. It's going to be up to her as someone who's a Democrat to shame those people who are, they are her party, and she's not okay with it, and she wants somebody that's going to represent them, and she's going to vote Democrat maybe, but if she is, that person's going to have to adhere to Iranian American policy. That's all we're really asking for here. But
Right.
Elham,
No, I get it. I just want you to know I
yeah.
don't take no for an answer. I would like to look into this myself to see why we lost
Elham, I want to launch you on a catapult into the
it.
Oval Office. Then,
Hey,
like,
listen, you never know
what do
me.
we?
I might actually
Yeah.
do that. I might end up doing that. I mean, this is
Okay,
actually
well, chill out. That's it. I
no problem.
disavow this.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
disavow this.
All right.
Yeah, the FBI is going to show up at your front door maybe if we
No,
keep talking
don't
like
you
this.
worry
So,
about that. I haven't done anything
yeah.
for FBI to show up. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that was a blast. I was going to end this space, but you really threw a few curveballs at me there, Elham. But I appreciate it. Look, I think we gotta, we gotta have these discussions. Paris, to go ahead, and then we'll go to Roy Lee, and then if anybody wants to come up here, go ahead, and then we'll get on out of here.
Okay, so I just heard something earlier that really was troubling. Elham, did you say that there's Congress people tweeting that the Iranian American community is being
Yeah, I'm
hostile?
gonna find it. I know. I was very troubled
Okay,
too.
so let me say something about that. That Have you ever looked under any politician, congressman, senator, under their posts, the comments from every kind of group who doesn't like them, and then for them to single us out and say the
No,
Iranian
I hear
American
you.
community is being
I'm gonna show.
hostile?
Because I saw it. I was as surprised.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm not saying I don't believe you, but I'm saying how wrong that is. They're trying to basically do what I've seen done to very oppressed, marginalized communities, is to label us hostile for speaking up for our rights and for demanding, humane treatment, and, not as like Iranian Americans, that like this is a matter that we care about,
Most
that we're
definitely.
scared
Yeah,
about
I
and
agree.
concerned about, and then to call us hostile because we're just simply speaking up for our rights. That is like, I mean, I am stunned because that's what you do. That's what I've seen done to a lot of very marginalized, oppressed communities.
That's
People of
exactly
color.
correct. You are correct.
There was a whole thing, fear campaign. I remember they used to do back in the 80s when they started their whole like, war on drugs and stuff towards like black people. And they made white people like scared of them. Like black people are criminals, they're bad, they're this, that. And then now to hear that they're labeling Iranians who are just speaking up for their rights as hostile, as a congressman. It's not like it's a regular person. You're talking about a public official tweeting out about us. When go look at look at any politician post and then just go start reading the comments.
There was a video actually. So let me just find the tweet, because I know when I read it, I read the tweet and watched it. I was like, are they labeling us out? It was just something, it really was troublesome to me, that I thought maybe somebody said something very wrong. Like, how could they? Anyways, I have to find the tweet and I will send it to you. I thought everybody saw it, to be honest with you. I was surprised. I thought this was be coming across to, so I don't know
No, yeah,
why.
I think we'd all like to know who those congressmen are. So,
I think she might be
send that
talking
over.
about, I'm sorry for interrupting. I think she might be talking about what happened in Kings County in Jayapal's district with that lady. We already responded to her. I think that's what she's talking about, but I'm not sure.
I will try to find it. There was a video too. I don't know, Bella, if there was a video in that post that you saw. But there was a video
Yeah,
and then
there
like
is a
the threat.
video. There is a video of her saying that we shouldn't support the Mahsa Act locally in their district because somebody had been harassing Daria from Nyack, and that Mahsa Act had something to do with the army. Now, they couldn't distinguish between IRGC and Artesh, apparently. So I think Jayapal was the one who had told them that this will affect the people that have to go and serve the army in Iran uh, by force, which is not true. IRGC is not, the army. I think that's what you're talking about.
There were two of them. Let me find them and I will send it over to Khashayar. There were two of them.
No, put them on the jumbotron. Listen, I'm curious, but I guess we'll take a quick break from that. We'll go to Tam and then Roy Lee. Go ahead, Tam. I was gonna end it, but I don't know. Go ahead, Tam.
So I also heard about about us being very aggressive, but that was also related to the Kings County thing.
Yeah, like who? I'm curious to see who's being like. Are we sure this isn't just somebody's amu just on Twitter being like,
well, the
"Gure
other thing to
pedere," who is
I
this?
mean,
Like,
the other thing to consider about all this, especially in that situation when where you're dealing with Nyack people that are influencing local politics, and what they ended up doing in that situation was they indefinitely shelved the Massa Act. That's where they went. I was in their live when they were taking a vote on it. It was very problematic. The other thing that I thought of when I was listening to all, because it was disheartening, it truly was, but was thinking to myself, I wonder if these are agents who
yeah,
are
no, Tam, I'm on the same page. Like, by the way, if these people are anonymous, you have no idea. Like, I see people in my comments just the other day, some dude, and it could be some agent just making us look bad, or
exactly.
it could be somebody's amu in Long Beach. He commented under my thing, being like, "Khak to Sarah Joe Biden, ridi be enqalabamun." And then so I was thinking to myself, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, if anybody sees this stuff, like this is a really bad representation of Iranis,
Exactly.
but also like this, like I think these could be agents, but also somebody's amu. That's crazy. I don't think that's it's not fair to just paint us all with one brush or with one stroke
I
as like
didn't
being
do
like these
that. I
crazy.
just did the
No,
check.
no,
No,
Elhama,
no,
I'm
no,
not
no, no,
saying
no.
you're
No one's
doing
saying
it.
that.
No, I'm not saying you're doing it, Elhama. That's not what
No,
that's
no, no,
about. But Tam,
no.
Well,
continue.
every
Yeah.
demographic is being that way. When you look at the comment section, that was my point. It's like, why would we get singled out not that any of us like that, have behaved that way, that, have like any kind of real identity and aren't like some sort of like, fake page. But my whole point is, why are we being singled out? Everybody comments on
We
politicians from every demographic.
so this was very localized. It was this whole thing that's being spoken about in Kings County. It was very localized. it was a bit ridiculous. They did have a spokesperson from NIAC who was influencing one of their local politicians, and then they decided to permanently shut. It was really not good. However, um, some things to consider is if there are bad actors out there, they could be getting aggressive and saying things and to put off local politicians or um, politicians who aren't local, who are senators and whatnot. But that's not what I want to speak about. The the other the one thing that I want to say is I'm not so sure that this, so there was a comment about, well, why aren't we being held abreast of all of this information as it's coming in? Because I think we all got put on our butt ends today. It was a heartening day, but um, that we've had strong voices in government like Corey Mills and all these people who have been there for us, and I have to wonder if they didn't know what's going on here.
That's
How
exactly my point. Let's look into it. Something didn't come through. You know what I'm saying? There is a disconnect. I don't know. Anyways, that's my point.
no,
Exactly what you're saying.
yeah, it's a terrible disconnect. But I don't think that this is being like held to the public. I think it's being withheld even to our own congressional members. That's why I am very concerned as well. And with that, I'll pass.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I don't think I've ever seen you come up here and speak, Tam, but good things to say. I enjoyed it. Roy, can you give us a second? I want to go to Bella because I think what she has to say is pertinent to this conversation, and then we'll go to you. Go ahead, Bella.
Thank you. It's not that important. I just want to say that I did go ahead and email the lady who said that was the treasurer of the Democratic Party of Kings County. I did go ahead and email them very politely and said, hey, give us a chance to come and talk to you and let us introduce ourselves because you are getting apparently the wrong information if you're talking about the army. And if they're lying to you about this, they're lying to you about everything else. So let meet with us instead of, just taking their word for it. So if other people want to do that, that would be great. I do agree with everybody else that, or some people, that the GOP are being very weak. They don't want to discuss this because if they do, like let's say Robert Malley's situation, if they do talk about it, they have told their constituents or their voters that the FBI is corrupt. Now we have Malley under investigation by the FBI. It's just not going to make sense for their voters to care when it comes to the FBI. So they don't want to talk about that. Generally, they're being weak. They could have made a much, much bigger deal of this Mali situation, and they haven't done that. Um, so we have to be assertive with both parties. Um, it, yeah, that's it for now.
Yeah, thanks for that, Roy. Go ahead, man. Good seeing you again.
Yeah, I was a little bit busy a couple months earlier with training. Yeah, it was fun, but yeah, got to shoot a lot of stuff, blow a lot of stuff up. It's really fun. But anyway, I got some really upsetting news for myself. So a couple of weeks ago, Marine Corps decided to send 3,000 Marines with 15 Marine Expeditionary Units to the Persian Gulf to deter the Khomeini. But unfortunately, they didn't pick me. The unit that got sent, it was mainly from First Marine Division, so I wasn't in it, which is very sad because I made promise to one of my friend here. I'm not sure if he's here today. His name is Ricardo. I told him I might see him in the street of Tehran, helping him tear down the statue of the Khamenei with our LAV-25. But unfortunately, they didn't pick me. So I just hope this time they don't blow the shit up because I don't want to miss it. Haha. What's up, Xavers? How are you doing, buddy?
Well, that was certainly a lot. I'm doing all right, man. We're having this space. We're talking about I don't know if you've seen recently the news about this hostage diplomacy situation. Six,
Yeah, I think
six,
the reason why they're sending Marines there is because they're kidnapping all of these oil oil tankers and stuff. So they're sending Marines and Navy there, so the IRGC will think twice if they want to try something in front of the warship of the United States Navy and a gunpoint of the United States Marine Corps. It's just fucking sad. I wasn't there,
yeah.
man.
Well, if you happen to see Khamenei in the Persian Gulf, send him our regards.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna shoot him with a bullet that's dipped into the
Oh,
bacon grease,
all right.
dude.
Okay. I think that's. I thank you for that, Roy. Well, you know what? I will say this, guys. I tended to end this space a little earlier, but I want everybody to. Jesus, Roy. I want everybody to not lose sight of where we're going with everything. I think everything is going to be fine at the end of the day. We need to start looking. I'm glad we did this too. By the way, it's been a while since we did this spaces. I can't. I can't remember the last time I did one of these Iran spaces. I've been doing geopolitics spaces, but um, we need to do something more regular here. One of the things I told Emily and Sarah I thought they should be doing, just because like they're more personal than me. I'm a little like, everybody's got a problem with me, so like they're much nicer people to like open up a space for just Iranians to hang out with. Although Shahram used to do this all the time, guys. A couple of years ago, whenever I was like really getting into this stuff, like I was always interested in the Middle East and like geopolitics, but Shahram was like doing these spaces, like they were Iran late night spaces. And if you listen to Shahram's voice, he's got a late night voice to him, right? It's like really calming. Sometimes I feel like I'm drinking like way too much caffeine, but he's like got like a really calming presence to him. So I would join those spaces, and Iranian Americans would just sit in there and talk about being Iranian and, not even Iran, and just like talk about normal. And through there, I became really latched onto this whole thing. So I think that was a really big catalyst for me, and I want it to be for other Iranians. So I think we should figure out a way to do something more normally, maybe on like a Wednesday night or something. Emily, Sarah, maybe I'll do it. Shahram, maybe he can join, and we'll just do something like that. Because I mean, one of the things is, it's really, somebody messaged me long ago, and they were like, "Listen, man, you got to stop breaking news about bad news." And it kind of annoyed me. I was like, what do you mean I need to stop breaking bad news? If the Biden administration does something I don't like, I should talk about it, and you should know about it, because this is just real life, right? We can't live in some fantasy world. But I think I kind of got what he was trying to say. I disagree with him, but I think the base premise here is that moods and emotions are a very contagious thing. When I get really excited about something, or I go on these tangents, or I start doing a lot of spaces, or you see other people doing them, you get excited. When you see people getting upset or giving up hope and being really black-pilled, you get really upset. So I think there's something to that. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that we shouldn't lose our way. We shouldn't lose, if these things are contagious, then like the thing we got to be passing around is like better energy and optimism, which I understand it's really hard to come by these days given the situation, but we got to figure out a way to stick together. And we shouldn't wait until days like today happen. So I think Farsi Twitter does a really good job of this. They have like nightly spaces. They made their own little friends and stuff. We're very busy, I understand it, but maybe like once a week we come decompress and just stick together. The Master Act spaces, I always tell everybody to go to those, because that's kind of what it is. I mean, God, they're way too surgical for me, because it's like Nick is like a goddamn professor. I love that guy, but like there's no messing around for like the first half hour. You guys are calling this person, calling that person, and like maybe I should take a page out of his book, because I'm like, like there's no middle ground here. Like I'm like on one side like unprofessional, Nick is like very professional. So maybe like the middle ground here is like Sarah or something. So I think, so I mean that, I guess that's what I'm trying to say here is we got to find like a common place to like hang out more. But I think everything is going to be all right. We got to stick together. Somebody said it in a space earlier today. We only have each other. I think they're right. I think there was a lot of Iranians when I was growing up who thought that we were like part of some greater Middle East thing. and we're just not. We're just different. Sorry, it just is the way it is. I like it this way. We're never going to be like anybody in the region where there's no pan anything, including us. We're just Iranians and our diaspora. We're lonely, but the loneliness kind of brought us really closer together. So we got to figure out a way to protect that. Be gentle with each other. Put beefs aside. I've mediated so many of these things. You wouldn't believe it, where people talk to me and they're like, I got problems with this person. We just don't have these luxuries. We can't go after each other. We can't go after others. There's just not enough of us. We don't have that luxury. But I think through that, there's something beautiful to be found. I've made many good friends here, and many of you guys I will meet. Some I've met in real life here. Others soon in the future. But on that note, I love you guys. Stay positive. We'll do more of these. The next thing I want you to look forward to is the anniversary in 1 month. I'm going to start putting some things together in the weeks following up to that, and then every day on the week that's going to happen. We really got to figure out a way to reignite this thing. This thing is not over. Listen to my friend Shahram. When I had anxieties, I went to him. I was really scared, and people think that I just, can go on these spaces and yeah, you listen to me. I'm very positive and I want to be aggressive, but even I get scared. I'm not too man enough to admit that. I sometimes get anxieties or I lose my direction or hope. But whenever I went to him, he let me know, um, this isn't a microwave revolution. Keep telling yourself that. Write on a piece of paper. This is a marathon. When they unfortunately in 1979, that took 2 years to materialize. Sadly, okay. So we're in our baby phases. We're going to get this thing right. And the wheels are coming off the Islamic Republic. It's only a matter of time. With that being said, I love you guys. Have a good night.